Now I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers for today, starting with the Program Director of the Advanced Manufacturing Clearinghouse, Prakash Patwardhan. Prakash brings a wealth of experience and expertise in the field of advanced technologies and digital transformation, and today he'll be sharing the mission behind the Advanced Manufacturing Clearinghouse and the value that it brings to the medical device community. Joining Prakash is the Senior Program Manager of AMCH, Steve Zera. Steve has extensive knowledge of the submission criteria, eligibility requirements, and the overall application process. Now he'll be sharing those valuable insights with us and answering your questions during today's session. So now, without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Prakash to get us started. Prakash, over to you.
Thanks, Devon, and I welcome all the attendees who are on the call. I appreciate you taking time to understand the MDIC's Advanced Manufacturing Clearinghouse application process. Before we dive into that, I would like to take a few minutes to kind of walk you through what is Advanced Manufacturing Clearinghouse program. Why are we doing it? What are the drivers? What does it mean for a med device industry? And then finally, I would like to talk about what is advanced manufacturing technologies that we are talking about. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So advanced manufacturing and clearinghouse, why are we focusing on it? So first of all, advanced manufacturing means an approach for manufacturing of medical devices that incorporate novel technologies, use an established technology to enhance product quality or improve manufacturing process. So advanced technologies are all those technologies we hear about on the TV nowadays. We hear about artificial intelligence. Under that, you hear about ChatGPT. We are hearing about machine learning, digital twin, digital thread, modeling and simulation. There are a number of advanced technologies which are being used in other sectors, for example, automotive, pharma, those kind of area where those are being extensively used, not so much in med device industry. And there are a few reasons why it is not being used. First is there was a lack of clear guidance from FDA. How do you incorporate it? How do you demonstrate validation? So that has been taken care of by a recently published Computer Software Assurance, CSA guidance that FDA has published. Second one is lack of talent. When you bring in new technology, how do you make sure that it is absorbed within the organization, employees feel comfortable using it, and it drives value? And so that's where the lack of talent comes in. The third one is return on investment. When you bring in these new technologies, it's quite a lot of the funding is required for that. How do you demonstrate return on investment, given that the economic situation, the crunch, credit crunch, and everything that's going on? So that's the background. Why are we doing it? So there are a number of reasons. One is, we all know during the COVID time, we struggled with availability of simple things like mask, hand sanitizer, those kind of things, because we were not manufacturing those had been offshored, and it became so difficult to bring those back to US in a very short duration of time. Secondly, the supply chain resiliency. We saw total disruption of supply chain disruptions. So through advanced manufacturing, through AI and ML, we can take care of that, and obviously secure product supply. And ultimately, we all know that the basic mission of any med device company is to ensure safe, effective, and compliant devices. And we have seen there are a number of examples slowly coming up from med device industries where they have adopted these advanced technologies and shown the real value while maintaining the safe, effective, compliant devices. And lastly, I would say advanced manufacturing is a strategic priority for the US government. And that is the reason through FDA, it is funding adoption of these technologies at med device industries. Next slide, please. So when we say adoption of advanced manufacturing technologies, what does it mean in real term? So first of all, we would like to see adoption of these technologies not at one particular spot, within the manufacturing environment, but across the total product life cycle of a med device. So it could be right from design, ideation, right up until the product lands into the hand of healthcare provider or with the patient. So across the total product life cycle, that is where we are looking for adoption of technology, and that's where the real value will come in. The next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, adoption across the total product life cycle, but you heard me saying advanced manufacturing clearinghouse. So advanced manufacturing, now we understand it's adoption of advanced technologies we talked about. What is clearinghouse? So the clearinghouse is a mechanism through which we are going to share the learnings from these proof of concept projects at the med device companies that MDIC is going to fund to a certain extent. I'll talk about that. And we are going to use those learning to share with the wider med device ecosystem so that we all learn from it. So what is the benefit for MDIC in funding these advanced manufacturing technologies at med device companies? We want med device companies in return for the funding, share those success stories, their experiential learning of adopting technologies, minus we do not want you to share your intellectual property, your secret sauce. We don't want to you to share the confidential information around your product. We want just your experiential learning. How did you adopt? How did you execute the project? What were the challenges? How did you make it happen? How did you train your employees? How do you engage with your employees? That is what we would like to learn from you. And we will use those learnings from you and share with the med device ecosystem through either a white paper or an article or organizing a conference and inviting the people who participated in that. So that's the purpose of it. Now, what is the level of funding? So for an advanced manufacturing technology project that a med device company is adopting, we will fund the project up to 30% of the overall project cost, not exceeding $300,000. 30% of the project cost, not exceeding $300,000. And in return, the med device companies have to just share their learning so that we can share with the wider world. And that is the overall purpose of Advanced Manufacturing Clearinghouse project that is being run by MDIC. Now I'm going to hand over to Steve.
Hey, thank you, Prakash. Again, now what I've hoped for, what we'd like to cover now is the application process itself. In addition, what I will also spend a little time on is the application portal to give you some idea of what that looks like and what to expect, along with what do you guys need to do to help support a good application to hopefully get that through and have us look at that. So what I'd like to do is, start off where it all begins is when you look at some of the technologies, the advanced technologies that Prakash mentioned, it starts with you at the company. So if you have a project that looks like it fits the advanced manufacturing landscape with being advanced technology, we expect either someone from your company, like we call it a point of contact, become the applicant. So you'll go into the system, into the portal, which you can access through the MDIC.org webpage through the Advanced Manufacturing Initiative that you'll see there. And there's a link to that to allow you to go in and create an account. So once you create an account, you start your application process right there. And then what I'm going to do is also talk to you a little bit of what to expect next. So when you get into that portal, so there's a couple things you're going to be asked for. We're going to be asked for some basic project information. In addition, some information when it comes to, let's say, the project leader or some contact people that we have in addition that would help us to have more information about your project, along with your total spend that you're expecting to do for that project. So that'll allow us to assess the amount of money that you'll be looking for. You also, we're asking for you to download the confidentiality agreements, which you will have to have a representative from your company to sign. That confidentiality agreement only allows us to be able to share with the project score and selection team the information that you submit with your project. Then the next piece is the actual presentation itself. So when you put a formal presentation together, that will go up in front of a project selection scoring committee that will review that and you will present to and will ask questions about. So there's a project intake template that you can download from the website, from the online portal, which will give you a little bit of a guidance of what are we looking for information. I'll go ahead and also to the slide next, I'll actually talk you through that a little bit about what to expect. Then when you're on that web page, you'll be able to also view the overall AMCH presentation so you can understand the program more if you'd like, along with those FAQs. And there's also, after post acceptance, if your project is approved, there is a master services agreement which will have the statement of work and the payment schedule and everything else that you'll need to do to be able to agree upon through your legal counsel. That doesn't need to be done until after you're accepted or approved. But if you want to download the template and start looking, having your legal counsel look through that, that may save time once you are approved. The next step then is what do I do when I submit it? How do I get it submitted? So the requirements are generally going to be you're going to have that information entered into 1 or 2 pages, which are with red asterisks that are mandatory fields that you must fill out. You'll have to upload a signed CDA from that you downloaded, and then there's also your project presentation. So once you put that into it, that will be the same presentation that you'll give during the selection team review. Now that presentation, once it goes in, you can go back and update that accordingly all the way up to the time that you do the presentation. Now what happens once it goes through the process, you'll get a signal back and a message, an email back saying that it's been submitted and it's in review. Our team at AMCH will go ahead and do a preliminary review and see if you have everything that's required in the information for the package. Once you do, you'll get our project coordinator, Aurelia Brooks, will work with you guys to set up a time that you will do a formal review in front of the selection committee. Now, usually that'll be your applicant or point of contact that will do that. Now, if your project is approved, then it'll move up to the next step, which would be then the MSA. So we'll go ahead and update the MSA accordingly, make an account with the statement of work, and then again, that'll go through your signature. Now, just to let you guys know that our project selection and scoring team is made up of MDIC members, members of the FDA, and we do have subject matter experts that we will have based off the technology that you're submitting. So what does that all lead to? It'll lead to where you have a possible amount of funding, and Prakash covered that up to 30%, not to exceed 300,000. So that's an overview of the application process itself to kind of give you a bit of idea of what is needed from your side. And it's, again, very straightforward. Now, what I'd like to do is spend a minute or two talking about that project intake. What makes good elements that we're looking for that needs to be in part of your presentation? Part of it is you're looking at different areas of project impact. So we want to know how is that implementation of that technology going to impact certain elements of the project. Is it patient safety? Is it quality? Is it compliance? Is it process efficiency? You may touch on all 4. You may touch on only primarily one and may not touch others. So that's okay. There's nothing that doesn't make a difference on that. We're looking for just a complete round the scope that you have. In addition, we look at the depth of deployment. So is this a project that's only isolated to one area or function or a manufacturing site? Or is this going across the enterprise? So that's the piece that we're looking for on the scope side. On the result side, what are those measurable results? So every time you have a project, we want to know you have a baseline. Where are you at today? It could be a variety of different measurements based off where you are in the total product life cycle. So it could be a time to market issue when you look at design. It could be some design improvement you're doing. It could be complaint reduction. It could be recalls. Any of those type of things. It could be just a time or cost issue that you're having. So a variety of metrics that you have that you look at to address your project. We are looking for what's your baseline versus what are you projecting to do when you implement. Same with sustainability results. You know, how are you going to sustain those results once that project is implemented? And then finally, we want to understand what your project rigor is like. So when it comes to program management and project management, does your company have a dedicated team or just a person that's dedicated to that project? There's a commitment by leadership for that project. And so that's a big thing that we'd like to know is, does the company have full buy-in to what you're doing, irregardless of whether you get funded or not? And then it's where you are in the phase of the project. Are you still at concept? Are you down in execution? Or are you almost toward closure? So again, where's the percent completion? So these are the elements that you'll need that is described to you in the project intake template that you're able to download from our website. So now what I would want to do is just spend a few minutes talking about the actual application portal. So when you do go into our website and you go to the link, you're going to see this screen. So if you don't have an account, you would select Start Application, and that would then ask you to create an account. One of the things I do want to show with this page is that if you go up to the top menu bar, there is other options that you can pull up. You can do the project program overview. So if you want to learn more about the AMCH program, that presentation is there for you to download. The application flowchart that I just showed you, that's also there for your review. Our team contacts, so specific contacts within our AMCH team you can reach out to. And then there's a list of FAQs that we have compiled that we get a lot of questions about, that we hope that would answer those questions if we cannot answer those today. So then when you go into create your user login screen as an applicant, one of the things I do want to point out is that one of the things that we require is we want to see a company email name tied to the applicant. So when when the system sees Yahoo or Gmail, it's going to flag that registrant, and we're going to most likely will send you a message back saying that we're going to delete that user ID from the account until you are able to put one in that's a company email address. So that's one point that I just wanted to make clear with when you're registering. Now, one of the things you're going to see when you go on into the portal, there's four main areas. There's your application information entry, there's your required uploads, and then finally there's the application status. So you can go in periodically and see where your status is. So I just want to show you here is what are some of the fields. Now, when you register, some of the information will automatically populate for you since you're the applicant, and you can see. And if something changes, you can make those adjustments. So as you can see, we do want to know what the estimated cost of the total project cost is going to be and what phase you're going to be in. The next piece is, again, the second piece is the download screen. So this is a screen you'll see where you can go do all your uploads and downloads. You have the project intake, you have the CDA, and if there's any additional information you want to share, if there's a video or another type of item that you'd like to load up, you can do that. When you are ready to submit, you'll go to the application status screen, and there's a submit button. So the system will not allow you to submit unless you have those items upload in the second page here. Now, you can still go to the post-application approval page where it has the master service agreement, which you can download to start looking with it with your through your legal counsel. But this is where you would go ahead and upload the signed version of that once your project is, if your project is approved. And then the other piece on this is your project plan. So the one piece that's one of the deliverables to begin the project is that once you've updated your project plan and we have moved forward with the signed MSA, you'll upload that presentation, and then we'll start setting up a governance meeting once a month to go ahead and review that, and then to look at the process of your project as it's going through the timeline. And then finally, you'll go to the final page, which is the application status page. So we control that. So this will allow you to see if the application has been complete, whether it's been approved or denied. If it's denied, you'll receive an email back with us with some explanation of why the project has been denied. denied or declined. One of the other things with this page is if you do get approved and you move forward to the project presentation piece, when it's complete and you want to move toward the project presentation phase where we're scheduling that, Aurelia will also use this page to be able to put some of that information in there in addition to the emails you've received from this. And then what I want to do is just kind of close out my portion is to just show some of the links. This is also in the AMCH overview presentation that you can download. We have 2 white papers out there, just so you can see that there's where this program has gone. We have our landing page of how to access it. You have an on-page overview, and then the link to the online application portal you can also access through that, in addition to just going directly to. And then the barcode links are there too. So again, there for your scanning, you can then, and again, this is all also in the AMCH presentation once you go and register into the online portal. That is my section right now. I want to make sure I give plenty of time so we can answer all of your questions. That was pretty much the piece that we really want to drive this presentation, this webinar for, is to, especially users who maybe access the system and have questions, please ask away, and I'll hand it back over to Devin, our moderator.
Thank everyone for joining us for today's webinar session. As Steve said, we're now going to begin the Q&A portion of today's webinar. There's already a few questions in the chat, but just for anyone who didn't hear the introduction to today's Q&A format, please feel free to use the Q&A function down at the bottom of your Zoom bar to ask all of your questions related to the Advanced Manufacturing Clearinghouse, the Advanced Manufacturing Program at MDIC, and any other questions you have for today's guest. So as those questions come in, I'll start with some of the ones that we've already received. And the first one is going to be from Claudia. So that question is, are applicable projects limited to only digital/software methods, AI, ML, et cetera? Or can they include additive manufacturing methods such as 3D printing? Steve or Prakash, do you guys want to take that one on?
Yeah, I can take that. So absolutely. So when I mentioned AI, ML, digital twin, digital thread, those were just a few names. It's not an exhaustive list. 3D printing absolutely is a part of the paradigm shift that's happening in the manufacturing. So absolutely 3D will be there. And there are other technologies. I haven't read out all the list of advanced technologies available out there. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's a good segue to actually the next question is, it's a 3-parter, but the first part of that question is, what does constitute an advanced technology that does qualify for funding as opposed to non-advanced technologies that wouldn't qualify in this case?
So that's a great question. So in our definition of advanced technology, as I mentioned, adoption of AI, ML, machine learning, 3D printing, and others to improve upon the existing processes in the manufacturing environment. So when I say manufacturing, it includes the total product life cycle, right from design to the end of the product life. So examples could be application at a very basic level, could be MES, Manufacturing Execution System, PLM. It could be electronic QMS system. You might be using a digital twin to replicate your existing process in the cloud and do design of experimentation on that digital twin and look at the best possible parameters to drive the machine and then transfer those to the real operating procedure. That's a digital twin. Digital thread could be, right now we are seeing that there is a lot of information, a lot of data available in the manufacturing environment. But that information is in silos and it is not shared across the whole organization. So through digital twin, you can democratize that information and it is available to everyone. So in case if you receive a customer complaint, the customer complaint does not have to pass through different stages within the organization for somebody to look at. It goes across the organization, and right from design to service, people can look at that customer complaint and can respond to it. So that's just an example of digital thread. So that's what we mean by advanced technology, application of all these advanced technology to drive improvement across the manufacturing environment. So manufacturing processes.
And can I add something to that, Prakash? Is that, again, you've heard in the news lately about AI. AI has become a very popular thing now. It's out in the open now. And I think if you look at a lot of what people are doing now with some things, and I think complaint handling, like Prakash mentioned, a lot of people have systems in place to try to manage that, but it's not really self-driving. It's really still a lot of manual input, a lot of people interaction. So when we look at advanced technology, you're looking at things, well, how do we take it to the next level? And that's kind of where you start looking at it from that frame of mind as you start looking at your project scopes. Thank you.
Thank you both for your answer to that one. And I want to move to the next part of this question, which is, do these devices, the device that we're discussing here today, is it required for them to be connected to the internet to be applicable for this process?
So I think first thing I would like to say is we are not funding the device by itself. We are talking about the process of making that device. And that's where that difference comes in. And to get the best benefit of advanced technology, it has to be cloud-based. So to be cloud-based, obviously the manufacturing processes, they need to be talking to each other in the digital twin, digital thread world. And so obviously I think internet is very important, but it is for the manufacturing processes, not the devices.
Right. Thank you. And I'll move on to the next question that we have here so far, which is, how many projects are you planning on accepting? And do you have an idea of how many applications you plan on receiving?
So there is no limitation on number of applications. Our online application portal is open. We are accepting applications. So far, we have already reviewed 3 projects, and those have been approved for funding. There is no limit on it. It depends on individual project. In addition to those 5 lenses that Steve talked about, the project impact, the scope, the additional thing that we look at is the uniqueness of technology. So let us say that we start receiving 5 or 6 or 10 projects on digital twin only, and we receive one single project on, let us say, digital twin. In that case, we might lean toward digital twin because we already have 10 projects or 2 or 3 projects, those are being funded, and we can use that to drive the value. So we would like to promote other technologies. So that's a possibility that the selection team might take into account while selecting the project.
And when might the application be due is the next question.
I'll let Steve answer that.
Okay. Yeah, the application portal is open continuously right now. So again, we've got that going on at least through next year, as with our agreement with FDA. And so, as we're cycling through, it all depends on how many projects we get, right? If we end up exhausting the funding earlier, then it may close out earlier. But at this point, our thought is the intention is to keep it ongoing until we can exhaust our funding and to be able to also look at the right projects that we want to be part of this program. So no time limit right now. It's really up to you guys to I think right now where we've seen is people who have accessed the portal already. What has slowed some things is that I think it's the CDA. I think is what people want to go back to our legal. They want to consult, see if there's some concerns. I think people were concerned whether we want IT or IP issues. It's not. And so I think now as we talk to people about it more, I think people will come more relaxed, understand that we're just looking for information flow.
Thank you to everyone in the chat for those great questions. We still have a lot more time. We still have a few more minutes for more questions. So if you guys have anything else that you want to ask today's guest, now is the time to go ahead and put it in the Q&A function on your bottom Zoom bar. Now for Steve and Prakash, moving right along to the next question. DJ asks, along those same lines, is it possible to submit/approve multiple projects for a given company?
It is possible, absolutely. Yeah. It depends on the quality of the projects. Absolutely, a company can submit 5 projects, and if those 5 projects are the projects that will really drive value in terms of promoting the advanced technology, it's possible those all 5 projects might get approved.
One thing, though, I do want to add that I think we did get this question from some people at one of the conferences we were at, is that when it comes to who we provide, I think there's some questions about solution or service providers. So if you're a company that creates a solution for a medical device company, generally we will not fund those. We would recommend, if you are working closely with a med device company on a particular product, I would ask you should go to the med device company and have them apply for funding for that project or for what they're trying to implement if it's part of a solution. So just want to throw that in there a little bit. I think that because we've had that questions come up a few times with people is, who can receive funding for that. And that's one of the distinctions that we've made, is that it's really for the med device companies.
Thank you. And so our next question's from Gwen. The question is, I see that non-US medical device companies can apply, but the product must be sold or produced in the US. We're not currently selling in the US, but we are active in the US for clinical trials before our FDA approval. The question is, are we still able to apply? We manufacture currently in Canada.
So the simple, straightforward answer is that any medical device that is being manufactured for US market, any project working on that kind of a device will be funded, will be approved for funding if it is selected. But the med device that you are producing in a country and it is not meant for US market will not be funded. So in other terms, are you under the FDA oversight for that particular device? And if you are, then absolutely, the project will be funded.
And exactly how many projects does this initiative plan to fund overall?
So right now, we are planning to fund at least 5 projects. We have received 3. We are going to fund another 2. Like Steve mentioned, we have limited fund, but in our discussion with FDA, we have been given assurance that if we get more projects than 5 or 6, and those are quality projects, additional funding will be released. So I don't think funding is really a challenge. And we received funding in the first year. We received the funding for the next year. We are planning, we are pretty confident we'll get the funding for the 3rd year. So it's a kind of a rolling funding which is available. So your project, you submit, and if it is, say, at the fag end of this financial year, which is around September, that project can roll into the next financial year, which is October of this year. So I don't think funding should be a problem. The best way to get the funding is submit your proposal.
Submit now.
Get in front of the selection team. And the selection team comprises of 4 members of FDA, 3 members for MDIC, and 1 subject matter expert. So when you submit your proposal and you get in front of the selection team, in fact, you are sharing your project ideas and project with FDA, and you are getting inputs from the FDA. So right from get-go, you are collaborating with FDA, and they are providing you input. So it's a win-win.
And I guess a follow-up to that question is this funding able to be stacked with other sources for the same project?
So when you say your project cost is, say, about $1 million, we will fund 30% of that. And say remaining 70%, you are getting funding from somebody else or some other place. That is your internal point of control. We will fund you up to 30% depending on the project.
And just continuing with our round of questions, thank you everybody in the chat for this engaging Q&A session. We do still have time for more questions, so feel free to continue to add questions as they come to you. But for Steve and Prakash, moving on with our questions for today, the next question is just to confirm, do digital health products qualify?
Digital health products. So if we are saying that a continuous glucose monitor, which monitors your blood sugar on a regular basis, if you are in the business of manufacturing that, absolutely that qualifies. If you say digital health product like an Apple Watch, which kind of monitors your ECG or EKG, whatever you call it, it's a digital health product. For the product, we will not fund, but if you are planning to manufacture this product, then absolutely that funding is within the scope of advanced manufacturing.
And do you all provide feedback on the applications that you receive?
Absolutely, we absolutely do. So one of the things that we try to do early on here is we've tried to reach out to when we do receive a completed submitted application, and we will touch base with the point of contact from the company, and we'll have one-on-one discussions a little bit before it to help you understand, what we see and what maybe you could add to your project intake or project presentation. So we're here for guidance to help you through that. And so we want, if it's a good project, and again, if there's questions that you have, we'll work alongside with you for that before the formal presentation is given. So again, if there's any questions you have, we're here to help you. Definitely.
It's great and super important for everyone to hear. It's, I think, definitely an added benefit or added piece of value that being a part of this program or applying to this program provides. So thank you for the question. Our next question moving forward is, who is eligible to apply and how many PIs?
So like I mentioned, medical device companies developing product, manufacturing product for US market are eligible for this funding. Absolutely.
And our next question is, by project cost, do you mean project cost of just production? For example, not the entire cost of the project development, but just the manufacturing piece. Give us a little bit more clarity as to what's included in project cost here.
So let's take an example. You have a manufacturing process and you're planning to digitalize the full process. The cost of digitalization is the project. So that's your project. So that includes the cost of the solution or the platform you are using or software you are using. You are using consultant to help you execute the project, the people working on that project. If you need to buy some machinery as a part of digitalization, that's a part of the project. The overall cost of executing that project to digitalize a process or to create a digital twin or create a online cloud-based AI-backed complaint handling system. The overall cost of the project, everything.
And for anyone that's successful in submitting an application, after the conclusion of today's session, when could they expect to receive the funding?
Steve.
I'm sorry, Devin, you cut out. What was I didn't catch your full question. Your audio cut out.
No problem. For anyone that is successful in applying for the Advanced Manufacturing Clearinghouse, when might they be able to, or when might they expect to receive the funding?
Well, again, it goes back to the timing of it's a shared response here versus if you are to go through the process to score it and we end up selecting your project and we notify you, the speed at which it can be going is really dictated by how fast you're able to get us a assigned MSA to be able to move forward along with your updated project plan. Once we have both of those into that process, then we'll start scheduling monthly governance meetings with you to be able to, on the initial one, to actually review that plan, make sure that we're calibrated and is aligned to what we spelled out in the attachment of the standard statement of work in the MSA. If we're all connected and we're all in agreement, then we can move forward. And then the payment schedule is dictated by the selection team. So when we go in and set up the MSA, we'll look at how much do we want to bring up. Is it 50% up front, then it's 25 and finish it, or it could be 10 up front. It depends on the project and what the team looks at. But you'll receive that initial funding to be able to, the initial payment at the meeting of the initial requirements in the MSA, which is the updated project plan and the signed MSA that we can move forward with. So it can be actually quite fast on some of the payment, but obviously you have to complete the project to get to the final payment.
Great questions again from everyone in the audience. Thank you for your continued engagement. One more question for you all here today. That question asks, what if you're in the ideation phase and you want to develop a complete software as a medical device or AI/ML device? Can you give an example of what part of that kind of project could be covered with this funding?
We could cover the 30% of overall project cost for that project. It depends on how do you define that project. Like I mentioned in the previous response was cost of software, cost of machinery, cost of hiring experts, subject matter expert, cost of training people, cost of buying equipments or machineries to as a part of that particular project are part of that funding application funding criteria, so as to say. Yeah.
It's really it's really how you scope the project, right? So it depends on what your funding is with the full scope. You know, again, some people have scoped up projects where the intention is to move. You know, there's almost like a concept or a proof of concept phase where they're able to go in and get to a certain point to their implementing the IA or the advanced technology and be able to prove it works, and also show compare the baseline on that one product line. If that's the define of where you define the initial piece, that's fine. Other plans, people plan to say, well, I do that, then I will move on to the next product lines. Well, again, that could be 5 years down the road by the time you touch on everything you want to. It's important that we know that you're going to go that as part of the scope of the depth of deployment that we're looking for. But you may define on what is the piece that you want to get done in this certain time frame that we can prove the concept. I hopefully that answers that question.
And there is one more question. I think, did a really good job of answering that one. And there's one more question before I think we conclude for today. And that's on more than one question now before we conclude for today. But the first one I think we touched on a little bit is, are there any deadlines for this? I think we answered by saying it's a rolling application process, but do you guys have anything you want to add on front of deadlines?
No, you're right.
Just get it in.
Just submit it.
Just submit it. Submit it, and we'll move it. We'll see where it goes.
And the next question is, what project links are accepted?
Say it again, project links.
Project links. Yep. What project links are accepted? What's
so
the
project duration, how long can project go on?
Yes.
Typically we would like project to be finished in within a year's time so that we can leverage the value and share with the wider world. But we have seen projects which are in the phases. So first 2 phases are happening in 1 year and remaining 2 phases are happening in second 2 years. And but the first 2 phases are going to finish, and we'll be able to take the learnings from that and share with the wider world, and then the remaining project can be shared. So it depends again on the project, but typically we would like a project with timeline of 1 year, not more than that.
Yep. That's why it's actually to your advantage right now. If you do have an advanced, you know, if you've been working with your digital transformation, I know a lot of companies have digital transformation leaders now to help. Definitely make sure you're connecting with them and you're hopefully in sync with them if you're working from the quality organization. But the idea is to get that done. And so, you know, if we got that, we'll definitely address it.
Devin, if I may say quickly before we close, is guys, this is a great program. There is a money sitting on the table for you to drive the projects that you always wanted to drive, advance your processes, bring in new technology, and funding was a challenge. Here is almost $300,000 sitting on the table for you guys to take. And in return, you get two things. One is you get to work with FDA right from get-go. So you get collaboration, you get guidance from FDA. And secondly, you get bragging rights through sharing that successful story and sharing with the wider world, and sharing with your stakeholders that how you are bringing your organization, your med device world into the 21st, 22nd century by adopting all these technologies. So I would say that the only thing holding us back from funding you is you guys submitting that project yesterday. And Steve and I, we are eager to welcome those projects and take it through process. It's a very simple process. It does look daunting a little bit, but once you get started, and if there are any questions, we are here. You can reach out to us and we'll help you out. Absolutely.
Exactly. So again, if you're already into the execution phase, you have an approved project, you're in execution, and that's actually a good thing for you, because we're getting close to the point where you can actually demonstrate success of it, and that would lead us very quickly into potential white paper. And that's really what we want to do, is we want to really populate that clearinghouse to start getting the word out to the med device companies. Say, guys, this is a great thing that we've got going on. We really want to look at this technology. We want to understand it better, and we hope to maybe in the future do more with advanced manufacturing, get involved with some solution providers to help get people educated, to have some discussions out there to really understand the technologies that are out there that you guys could choose from. That's it on my part. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I think that's a great point for us to go ahead and end on today. I want to thank everyone who participated in the Q&A and anyone who just joined us to watch and learn more about the Advanced Manufacturing Clearinghouse. Definitely stay in touch and continue the conversation. You see the contact information for the Clearinghouse there on your screen. All the members of the Advanced Manufacturing Clearinghouse team are more than willing to help you with any specific questions you have about eligibility, about your project specifically, or just navigating the overall application process. We're all here to help, so feel free or don't hesitate to ask any questions. That's what we're here for. So for today's session, I want to, again, thank everyone for joining. Thank our two great panelists here for sharing all of their expertise and knowledge. And again, thank you. And signing off from today's session, feel free to...
Good luck, guys, and thank you, Devin.
No problem. For more information, join us at MDIC.tech/AMCH to find more information about the program and the application itself. But again, signing off for today's session. Thank you, guys.